What's up, guys? It's Benny. Guilty people who've committed horrible crimes often don't literally point everybody to the evidence of those crimes. They try and get away with it. They don't do things like this. Donald Trump on stage in the year 2015, before anybody even knew what the hell Jeffrey Epstein was, telling an audience, by the way, like who didn't ask. This wasn't a question about Jeffrey Epstein. No one was even talking about Jeffrey. Nobody knew anything. He was still a total and complete undercover CIA op at this point, run clearly by nation states like Israel and so on. Nonetheless, Donald Trump decided to make Jeffrey Epstein a thing on purpose in this race. Remember, he was running against Hillary Clinton. And President Trump makes a strategic decision here to popularize and to bring forward Jeffrey Epstein to the American public in this moment, right
Bill
here.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
Sean Hannity's like, huh? What? I don't know. Donald Trump gets asked about it seconds later.
Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So
it's amazing how every single piece of evidence that comes out about Jeffrey Epstein, it gets worse and worse for Bill Clinton and better for Donald Trump. Democrats released a trove of new emails from Jeffrey Epstein, virtually exonerating Donald Trump, proving that Jeffrey Epstein thought that Trump actually was a federal informant ratting against him and was colluding with some of the more duplicitous members of the media in order to frame Donald Trump using the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, even though he was innocent. Just guilty by association. And that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to run that op years later, but it's all laid bare in the actual documents. What else do we find out about the documents? If you really know where to look, you'll find that people, you may not know this individual. This is a man who was Jeffrey Epstein's longtime butler. And while he never met Trump, never saw Trump do anything, this man who's now come forward to the media says, dude, Clinton was around all the time. He has photos with Clinton that he has never before published, like this one. President Clinton wearing a Nike and Jordan shirt. And what's the slogan there? Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, okay. Well, Clinton did just do it. Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express 27 different times. The victims say that Bill Clinton liked him young in depositions. Bill Clinton is somebody who's never had to answer for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein went to the White House, not under Donald Trump, but under Bill Clinton 24 times. Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein, very, very close. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we even hear stories like this.
Very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights.
And of course, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein have stood in front of the United States Capitol in front of all of the cameras of the world and the media and said, yes, I was victimized on a flight with Bill Clinton. Here we go.
I was just one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was.
So yeah, given all of the available evidence, you'd assume there'd be an investigation into Bill Clinton. All of the breadcrumbs are leading to Bill Clinton. And now finally, we have this from Donald Trump. Now the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect their disastrous shutdown and all of their other failures. I'll be asking Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with the great patriots at the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in relationship with Bill Clinton, along with a number of other main Democrat donors or institutions. JP Morgan, Chase, Larry Summers, he's a former president of Harvard, Reid Hoffman, Democrat billionaire donor, and many other institutions to determine what's going on with them and him. And another Russia scam that'll the arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein on his island. Stay tuned. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We've often said that Democrats' obsession with getting Trump would eventually lead to Democrats getting completely blown up. And this is what's going to happen, man. In this moment, there's, I believe, so much more incriminating evidence on Bill Clinton. I know it because we can actually see it. We know as a matter of fact that Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed Bill Gates because of the creepy relationship that Bill Gates had with a young Russian. Nobody was quite sure her age, who he was obsessed with. It cost him his marriage, destroyed his life. Bill Gates, of course, is like a husk and a shell of a man, totally and completely compromised and blackmailed to the nth degree. Number of times Jeffrey Epstein visited the Clinton White House, 17, Trump White House, 0. Democrats and media left this out. Yeah, that's because Jeffrey Epstein was colluding in order to try and destroy Trump, damage Trump. But boy, this may flip around on Bill Clinton. Pam Bondi, back before she was Attorney General, saying that Clinton flew on Epstein's jet multiple times. We know that he was on the plane. We know that he was on the plane a couple of times. He traveled internationally with Jeffrey Epstein. He was on the plane called the Lolita Express. And there were supposedly young girls on that plane. He has been a friend, continued to be a friend of his for years, even after the sex predator allegations and convictions and sentencing. Bill Clinton stayed through it all and then invited Ghislaine Maxwell to his only daughter's wedding. Remember that? So now this is the time to bark up this tree. Trump says DOJ should go after Epstein and Bill Clinton. Stay tuned. Government officials, politicians, royalty, they were taping everything. Everything was being filmed. Donald Trump also put up this clip from Jesse Waters about the Epstein hoax and about the recent exonerations from Trump. But that this boomerang is going to swing right back and hit Democrats. And my take on this is that Democrats don't care because Bill Clinton, that is a train that has left the station. Bill Clinton can barely walk or talk anymore. The videos and clips of him in public are humiliating. And Bill Clinton is a shell of himself, and he's of no use to the Democrat Party. And so this is what this party does. They're a party of jackals and total animals. And Bill Clinton isn't in charge at all. If Bill Clinton can be thrown under the bus and they could try and hit Trump with that, they'll do it. And that's what they're doing right now. Ooh, nasty game, this. Here's the clip from Fox that Donald Trump posted that sort of details all this really beautifully. Go.
Democrats want you to forget all about the shutdown shellacking. So they're launching a smear campaign disguised as a bombshell. The Jeffrey Epstein emails. Congress is dumping thousands of documents, and Democrats are using them to frame Trump. But we've been combing through them and can't find anything nailing Trump. Even Axios says the emails contained no real smoking gun. The files do show Epstein's deep ties to liberals, like anti-Trump author Michael Wolff. He colluded with Epstein on how to blackmail Trump. Wolff told Epstein in 2015, if you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. Why is Wolff giving a pedophile PR advice and coaching him to take down the president? That wasn't the only writer Epstein colluded with. A New York Times reporter gave Epstein a heads up that a former cop was investigating him for a book. That reporter was pushed out of the company after they found he asked Epstein for a $30,000 donation. Larry Summers, who worked for Bill Clinton and Obama, was also pen pals with Epstein. He was asking him for tips on women. Who goes to Jeffrey Epstein for dating advice? Epstein didn't just have ties to the Democrats and the media. He had foreign connections. Before Trump met Putin in 2018, Epstein was pitching himself to the Kremlin, saying he could give Russia insight on Trump, which is weird because if the Kremlin was controlling Trump like the Democrats accused him, why did they need insight? He wasn't just any old rich American. He was well connected to top players all over the world, from Israel to Saudi Arabia. And it wasn't a secret. Epstein went to Clinton's White House 17 times. And Slick Willie was a frequent flyer on the so-called Lolita Express. Clinton and Epstein seemed like pals. But when it comes to Trump, Jeffrey had TDS. I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. Trump should wear that like a badge of honor. The slimiest guy in the world. Hating you is a good thing. Epstein even admitted Trump, quote, never got a massage. The same author Epstein colluded with even said this.
Epstein believed that it was Trump who first informed the police about what was going on at Epstein's house. And from that point on, they were nothing but bitter enemies.
So Trump dropped a dime on Epstein, but Democrats say they're best buds? And that Biden and Obama's DOJ had proof Trump was compromised, but waited 3 elections to keep it a secret? They arrested Trump over bookkeeping and want us to believe they had real dirt and didn't use it.
The Epstein files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration. You were there for 4 years. How come you didn't open it as a Democratic Party then? What am I missing?
Ghislaine Maxwell said Trump did nothing wrong. So have Epstein's victims and Epstein's lawyer. And none of these emails implicate Trump. So we're back to square one. Congress is playing games, holding fake votes to drop more files. But that's not going to happen because it's up to a judge, and they won't release grand jury testimony. This is now looking more and more like a ploy to divide Republicans and smear the president. For a party that claims to care about affordability, they sure waste a lot of time on old emails. Primetime wants to get to the bottom of the Epstein saga more than anybody. We've been covering the story for years. But the story isn't about Trump. It's about foreign intelligence, blackmail, and cover-ups.